First tonight, what is going to happen to several hundred Afghan refugees who've been told they're going to be evicted from East Midlands hotels next month? Well, their families who were evacuated here because their British connections put them at risk of reprisals. One man has told us he now regrets coming here after almost 2 years without a home. Our social affairs correspondent Jeremy Ball reports.
The UK's largest military evacuation for more than 70 years. Thousands of Afghans forced to leave their homes because their involvement with the British mission meant they could face reprisals.
These are interpreters, they are locally engaged staff and others who have risked their lives supporting our military efforts and seeking to secure new freedoms.
We disguised this young dad's identity to protect his relatives back home. Now his family's been given a property to rent privately in Derby, settling, working, building a new life. But other Afghan evacuees are still waiting for accommodation.
When we arrived in this hotel, we were told we'll be here for 1 to 3 weeks. My wife said 3 weeks would be boring. Now we've been here for 2 years. The British government helped us, but we didn't think we'd stay for 2 years in hotels. In 2 years, we haven't received a single offer of accommodation. In 2 years, why wasn't it possible to create accommodation with all the money they've spent?
Many were invited here because they served on the front line with the British Army, so now the MOD's offering some interpreters empty homes that were built for service families, including several here in the East Midlands. And so far, councils have supported 570 Afghans into homes across this government region, but others have turned down accommodation offers. 321 evacuees are still in 4 hotels and 1 serviced apartment block. They've received letters saying they'll have to leave next month.
It is a big challenge, but there is a lack of properties. We're starting to think about what our response will be if there still are some Afghans left in the hotels at the end of August. That could be looking to have just 1 hotel and people reallocated across from different hotels just to 1. But we're not too sure yet. What we do need to make sure, though, is these people don't become homeless.
There is extra help for Afghans to rent privately if they need deposits or guarantors. But Sammy's applied for properties in several towns and cities without success.
I regret leaving. If I'd known we'd spend 2 years in a hotel, we wouldn't have left. We can't cook, we don't have a home. My wife is very tired. It's very difficult.
Many Afghan families are putting down roots here. This is a school we visited in Grantham last year. But for others, next month's deadline means yet more uncertainty.
Well, Jeremy's here in the studio. I mean, this is just awful for them, isn't it? But, you know, talking about the housing crisis, all sorts of people are affected by that.
Yeah, and this is why the system has been designed to avoid putting extra pressure on council house waiting lists. Now, instead, the government's looking for extra properties. It's put out appeals to private landlords for that. Afghan families are also being spread around the country, often where property's more available, where it's more affordable. There is also some new money to build new extra council houses, which will be available to refugees on resettlement schemes. Now, this is both Afghans and Ukrainians who arrived in much larger numbers. And you'll remember the big difference with Ukrainians is that they were being offered spare rooms, and that system was deemed to have worked pretty well. So there is talk now of a similar scheme for new arrivals from Afghanistan. Here's the Nottinghamshire MP who's in charge of immigration.
The Homes for Ukraine scheme has been a superb one, which we should all be proud of. I took part in it myself at one point. If it's possible to create a comparable scheme for Afghans, that's something that we should consider. And I know that my right honourable friend, the Levelling Up Secretary, who has responsibility for that, is considering that.
Now, I said at the very beginning that the Afghan families are going to be moved out of these bridging hotels next month. Why?
Well, it's very expensive, first of all, and a lot of that money has come out of the overseas aid budget. The Home Office also says, look, it's not in anybody's best interests to stay in a hotel for months or even years. And Sammy, who we heard from there, certainly agrees with that. What he's really worried about, though, is that he won't find a home in time. And I spoke to another Afghan evacuee. He told me that landlords simply hang up when he tells them he's in one of these hotels. He said one letting agent told him that she'd prefer other tenants because the Home Office system to help him rent simply takes too long. So a lot of people very worried. tempers fraying, time running out, but there is a lot of work going on at the moment to find these families homes.
Well, let's hope it works. Jeremy, thanks very much indeed for that.